A Conversation With, and today we're going to be having a conversation with Aubry J. She is the author of the Fell For The Opp CJ and Dove's Love Story series. There's a part 1 and a part 2. And today we're going to be discussing the book with her, and we're also going to get into how she got started with writing, her future goals, and things like that. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Okay, so we're going to be discussing Fell For The Opp, but first I want to start off with how you got started in the writing industry and what made you want to be an author.
Okay.
So how did you get started?
Honestly, probably like my senior year of high school, I had like no classes. I think I took gym like 4 times a day. And my college English teacher was like, well, if you're bored, just do something, go write something. And I was like, okay, whatever, let's see how this goes. And I think probably like maybe a month in, I was just writing stories. A friend of mine was like, oh, what you doing? And I was like, writing. She's, let me see. I'm like, okay, come on. So then I'm sitting there and I'm like, where's my notebook? She's like, oh, somebody else got it. And I'm like, okay. And I'm typing this up at school, like on school computer, paper, ink, everything. I didn't took a 3-ring binder from a teacher, hole punching it, just going. And we started, I think probably halfway through the semester, I had about 8 3-ring binders, like the thick ones.
Yeah.
And it went from my school to another school to another school to another school. And I played sports. So it was like we would go to a game and they'd be like, oh, you got another binder? I don't have my first binder. To this day, I don't have my first binder. One of my friends still has it and she will not give it back. She was like, nope, this is mine. She's like, she takes a picture of it every year and sends it to me like, I still got it, don't worry. Still got it, don't worry. And I'm like, I may ever get that back. She's like, no, it's mine. I got it. Don't worry about it. I'm like, cool. It's in safe hands. 15 years later, it's in safe hands.
So are those the stories that you're now publishing, or those are just stories? So this is all new stuff.
Yeah, this is like, I love suspense. So this was more so like, I kill a character, bring them back, kill them again. I call it now, I'm like, I wrote a soap opera. I had doubles and triples and everything else. So it's totally different from what I wrote. But I find myself sometimes pulling those characters in like, what about this character? Oh, I should bring this in. So it's there. They somewhere around wherever. And characters now, like one of my friends read one of my books. She was like, that sound like this character from back in the day. I'm like, kind of is a little bit, just a little bit on it.
Yeah. Just revamp them.
Yeah.
Okay, so in your bio, you said that you started writing and then you ended up taking a break. What made you take that break?
Writing was never a long-term thing for me. It was more so, like I said, it was something to do. It was literally to pass time, to finish out high school, some of college the first time around. Like, it wasn't that. So it was just like, I got other stuff to do now.
Right. So then you went to do that, and then how did you get back into writing after
that? Maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. Like I said, my friend would always be like, hey, I still got your stories. Hey, I still got this. Hey, I still got that. My other friends would be like, oh, do you still write? Sometimes here and there. And then like maybe 3 years ago, I got really like looking on Facebook, following different authors on social media. And a lot of them now who have publishing companies were like, oh, we're looking for submissions. You know, if you think you got it. And my friends were like, just do it. Just do it. The worst thing they could tell you is no. And I was just like, okay. And I submitted a story and the person told me no. But what I love about it was she said, I'm not looking for this, but these other places are. And send this to them. And I was like, okay, but you hear that no, and you like,
Yeah.
no, I'm good. And now in my head, I was like, I'm not gonna do it. Not no. And that was like maybe 2.5 years ago. And then last year around this time, I was at a point in my life where I was like, I need a whole new change, a whole new revamp, I applied for different jobs. And my friend was like, send your books in. Send that story into them, to those places
Right.
that other person told you know about. And I was like, okay. The worst thing they could tell me is no. That's what, if I get
Exactly.
a no, I get a no. And the other two places that she told me to send them to, I got yeses from both of them. So I was like,
I love
okay.
I love even though she said this is not what I'm looking for, she let you know where you could go
Mm-hmm.
to get to, to still get published. So I like that as well. So what inspires you to write? Or is there any books or movies or anything that you watch? Is it life? What makes you say, you know what, I'm about to create some characters and
It's life. I'm a people watcher. So no matter where I'm at, I'm like, you're a serial killer. Mm, you are this. You are that. And so it was one of those things. And I am a pre-K school nurse in the inner city.
mm-hmm.
So it's like you see parents and it's like, oh yeah. The drama unfolds if you just sit there and watch it. I know who's sleeping with who got what kids, anything. So it's like, oh, I got this. I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna use that, and that's just how I get it.
You know what? And I have an aunt. She works with little kids too, and she's like, the little kids will tell you all their parents' business. Like,
Everything. I know who daddy came over to who house, and I'd be sitting there like, oh, and they go, Miss Aubry, and I'd be like, what is it? What is? Because you don't really think that until you're with them. And I got 3, 4,
mm-hmm.
and 5, and they talking and telling every time.
Mm. That is so funny. So you get you get inspired and you get your ideas just from simply being at work, from the kids at work, and from people watching.
Yep.
I do that too. I people watch too, but I just don't like to seem nosy. So I'm trying to watch like from a
No, I'm the
from a
nosy one. Be
distance.
like every time. I don't care, and I'll tell them like, "Oh, I'm probably gonna write some of this down just so you know. I have my little notebook. Like I'm writing some of this. Don't worry."
Okay, what would you say has been your biggest obstacle in the writing industry?
Hmm. I second. For me, it's I second guess myself. I write something, and then I'm like, "No, this isn't good. This isn't good," and I'll delete it.
Yeah.
And so, for like I said, just for me, it's that being confident enough to put that out. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like I people watch, but I'm not a people person. So
Right.
going out and like getting on different groups and introducing myself and trying to get readers, that for me is so difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. That's difficult for me too, because I'm more of an introvert. Like I love to write, I love books, I love to read, I love all of that. But when it comes to like putting myself out there, like that's difficult for me. What who is your favorite author and why?
Right now, Ashley Nicole is probably my all-time favorite right now because she gives you a little bit of everything in every book that she writes. She does the suspense, she does the romantic comedy, the anything, like it's there in every story, no matter if it's a novella, if it's a full, if it's a series, it's just where it's at.
Yeah, I like that. So what as an author, we all kind of feel like this is an area I can work on. What would you say that area is for you?
mm, I'm horrible at editing. Like it, I am a person that just writes it and goes right. And my publisher tells, she's like,
Mm-hmm.
I hate when you send me stuff because I literally write it down, go on with my life, write it, go. I don't outline. I I'm full of research, but that is my major thing. I have to learn how to outline and edit.
So when you send it in, do you like have quotation marks around the dialogue? Do you have like, are you doing that type of
I do
symbol
that.
stuff?
I am a very basic. You're gonna get your quotation marks, you're gonna get your indentions for your paragraphs, you're gonna get your paragraphs. But that's it. After that, I'm done. I'm like, let's get this editing going. I'm gonna look at it afterwards. But what I can say that from the first book to now, anytime that an editor leaves notes, I write those
Mm-hmm.
notes down and take that in consideration for when I'm
That's
writing next. So it's like, if they say, oh, make sure you're doing this, 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 cool, no problem. So when I'm writing my next one, I'm always like, okay, they told me make sure I'm doing this, make sure I'm doing that. But for the whole rest of the editing part, I'm not gonna lie to you, I hate it. It's probably the one thing where I'm like, no.
yeah. See, I'm an editor, so I love when it's somebody that I work with a lot. I love when I leave notes and I'm able to see that their progress over time and see that they are listening to the notes and they are making those changes. So I'm sure your editor is happy about that, because as an editor, that's something that I love. Like when I have told you, you know, do this, or this is a problem, or this is a consistent problem, and I'm getting a new manuscript from you, and I see that you made that change. I'm like, yes, they care about their passion. They're trying to hone their craft, and so that's good. It's good that you listen to your. Um, what would you say is the most important aspect you're writing your book? I know you said you like to add suspense. Like, which one? What element do you feel like I have in each of my books?
Um, I have to have, you're gonna hear my dogs barking because it was either outside or in the house with the kids, and I was like, I gotta go outside. My main thing is I always want black love, no matter what it is. It's gotta have that. And I notice a lot of time in black genres, I'm just gonna do an overhaul and say on a lot of black genres, you don't see a lot of mental health being mentioned and explored. So I always
Mhm.
try to put in some type of mental health thing and making sure that it is explained in the best possibility of way that I can, and making sure
Right.
that it's noted it's okay to get that help, because in a black community we always kind of turn our heads on that, like that's not us, we don't do that, what stays in the house is in the house. So I
Mhm.
always wanted that. Like for me, that's always my major thing. Like put that out there, let somebody know they not just by themselves, and then
Right.
make sure that somebody know that they can get some help afterwards.
Right. What I will say too about, because you know I read part one of Fell For The Opp, and I love the way that CJ loved Dub. Even like from the very beginning, like he didn't make her go through hell to for him to love her. Like he showed her that love from the beginning, and I really love that, because that's how it should be. I shouldn't have to let you break my heart and cheat on me and leave me in order for you to like truly show me real love. I really did appreciate that in your book. What is something that you feel like you are the best at when it comes to writing? Something that you feel like this is my thing. I do this.
Um, my female lead will always have a different type of career. I don't do the stereotypical, and it's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong when I say this, lawyer.
I
I
know.
won't do a lawyer. And it's not that it's because you don't see black women as lawyers, but it's a very go-to career for
Mm-hmm.
books with female leads. So I always
Right.
go very different. In my first book, the female character was a grand champion chess player. You don't see us in that. So it's like, is that even a thing? And I did a lot of research on that before I put that out there. Dove was going to school to be a vet. It's things
Right.
that I want. And even though little kids don't read my books, and I will never tell a child to read my book, I want
Right.
that woman or that young girl, whoever, to say, okay, wait a minute. Are we vets? Not really. Wait, do we play chess? I don't know, because my daughter plays chess. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and when we would go to tournaments, it wasn't a lot of us. So I'm like, no.
Right.
So I always, for me, my main always thing is my female will always have a different type of career, just to show that we are everywhere, even in on a small fraction.
Right. And also in your book, it seemed like education is very important to you, because you didn't just say, oh, she's in college and then just leave it. You actually explored her being in college, what kind of classes she's in. You had, her going to get her doctorate, all of those things. So it seems like you did a lot of research on that, or that's just something that's important to you. So I appreciated seeing that in your book as well. Okay, so what do you feel, and it may be what we've just discussed, but what do you feel separates you from other authors?
What we just the female lead thing, the mental health thing, and then just love. Like you said, I don't need you to break my heart. I didn't live life. I've done that. I don't need that. I want that just from the jump love, because it seems like for me personally, Black men are, some, not all, are afraid
Right.
to love. Like it's a sign of weakness, and I'm like, baby, that's the biggest strength you got, is just
Yes.
loving. So
Showing. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so as far as this book, what gave you the idea to write this book? And I also wanted to ask you, because I know you said that you don't like to edit. Do you write quickly? Like, do you turn around stories fast, or does it take you a while to write?
it depends. Okay,
Okay.
so my publisher probably hates me half the time, and it's a love-hate thing between her and I, because we bounce ideas off each other. And
Mm-hmm.
when we discussed Fell For The Opp, she was like, Aubrey, I want you to go. My first two books were very suspense. And she was like, I
Mm-hmm.
want you to go into a different genre. And I was like, I don't know. What do you have in mind? And she's like, let's do IR. And I was like, no, I can't do it. No. And she's like, well, what about urban? And I was like, what you got in mind? So we bounced ideas off of each other for probably a good 20, 30 minutes of
Mm-hmm.
how this storyline would play out. And
Mm-hmm.
then it took me, honestly, part one, mm, 4 weeks to write, maybe. And it was because I did a lot of research in the middle of everything. My
Okay.
opening scenes there at the strip club. I've never been to a strip club. So I was like, I'm calling my friends like, so at strip clubs, what really goes on? And they're like, oh God. Because I'm that corny friend that does not know anything, that I'd be like, really? That's what we do? And so I'm calling them like, so what is said, and can you do this? And and they're like, oh God, why do we? And it's because of how I am.
Yeah.
So that one took me like 4 weeks to write. But I also have a very bad habit of, I write more than one version of a story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really kind of how it plays out in my head, because I might want it to go this way,
Right.
and
With the character.
yeah, and she's like, no, it's not going, go back this way, and I'm like, okay, let's go back this way. So it was probably, honestly, maybe every 7 to 10,000 words I was sending her, like, Monique, is this where it's at? Do I need to go this way? And she's like, oh, you're kind of leaning
Mm-hmm.
more this way, go back this way. And I'm like, okay, okay. And because it did so well on the charts, I think I went to like number 27 on the
Mm-hmm.
charts.
Okay.
I was scared to write part two,
Yeah.
because I was like, what if it's not good? Because honestly, I was done with CJ and Dove. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
it ain't gonna do nothing. She gonna let me go back to what I want to write. And it didn't. And I was like, oh crap. And so people were inboxing me like, well, what happened? I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, and that one took me probably 6 weeks to write,
Okay.
because I was just like, I don't want to get it wrong. I don't. And Monique would be like, Aubrey, you can't get it wrong if it's yours, but you can. You can get it wrong. It can go
Yeah.
left.
Yeah.
So when I wrote that one, I didn't do 2 or 3 different versions. I literally just wrote, and it was like sitting in my office with nothing to do. I'd knock out 4,000 words at work, and then come home, knock out another two. And it was just like, oh, what do I do? So I'm trying to get better at my turnaround. If it ever get better, I don't know. But right now, it takes like maybe 4 to 6 weeks on writing one.
Yeah. That's good. So where do you see yourself as far as the writing industry in 5 years?
I need a couple #1 bestsellers in that time frame. I don't, and it's probably sound weird what I'm gonna say. I don't have an aspiration to be a publisher. I don't. I just want to write like
Yeah.
that. Give me a couple #1s here, and a lot of here and there, and kind of just go from there. Like my goal is to have at least 7 books out a year.
Okay. That's good. And that's doable. What do you have coming up next? What books do you have coming up next? What's next for Aubry J?
I have 2 books coming up next, and I'm about to dig myself in a hole when I say this.
Mm-hmm.
Fell For The Opp is getting a spinoff, and then so it will be
Okay.
2 books from that, 2 standalones. Um, I don't know the titles of them yet. I'm horrible at deciding titles. But it will be from one character from that main storyline, and then a supporting character from that storyline that is coming out.
Can you tell us the character?
From the storyline, Memphis.
Yeah.
Memphis is Dove and Falcon's oldest brother. He
Okay.
gets his own book, and then from
Okay.
Memphis, it will be Maverick and Kane, which are 2 of his friends from his book.
Okay. That sounds interesting. I can't wait to read that. So now you can tell us where we can follow you, Instagram, Facebook, all those type of things. What's your Instagram? What's your Facebook, Twitter?
I don't have a Twitter. I hate Twitter. I hate it. I know it's an author. People are like, what? I'm like, I hate it. It's weird. It's not my thing. You can follow me on Facebook. I have a like page, Aubry J, I believe it is. And then my main Facebook page is just Aubry Jackson. I have an Instagram, Arthur's Aubry J. Yeah. So those 3.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I feel like I got to know so much about you. I'm ready to go read the rest of your catalog. I love your view on writing and on your characters and developing your characters. So yes, I'm very interested in reading some more books from you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good
You
night.
too.